Now, just imagine that your parents are first-generation immigrants. You yourself were born here, maybe in the 1960s or 1970s. Here is all you've ever known. You've been educated here, you've worked here, you've paid your taxes here. And then, at the age of 50 or 60, you fall ill. You go to the hospital and you're told that, no, you've got to actually pay thousands of pounds for treatment because you're not entitled to it, even though you've paid all your taxes here properly over the years. Well, that has been the experience of someone over the past couple of weeks. Now, you have had the right to stay here, but maybe you just haven't got a passport. You've never thought of applying for one. And now the Home Office tell you, because of a new policy that they've introduced, that you have to provide 4 pieces of documentary evidence for every year that you've lived in this country, going back to whenever, 1960, 1965, 1970, whenever it is. Well, I couldn't do that. I wonder how many people could. Well, this is the fate of people who are the so-called Windrush children. Some, apparently, have been deported back to, well, I say back, they'd never actually been there in the first place, to Jamaica or the Bahamas. I believe that they have to be given the chance to return to this country if they want to, and who could blame them for not wanting to, given the way that they've been treated. They should be given the chance to do that by the Home Office, and the Home Office should foot the bill to that. What kind of bureaucratic incompetence or wickedness has allowed this to happen? I'd like to think it was just incompetence, but I have to say I'm not so sure. What scale of political incompetence has allowed this to happen? Why is it that the Home Secretary appears in the House of Commons today for the first time talking about this, full of contrition, full of U-turns, as she might? But how did this happen in the first place? Now, back in 2006, John Reid, the then Home Secretary, said the Home Office was not fit for purpose. Well, you could be forgiven for thinking that 12 years later, little has changed. And of course, you will no doubt remind me during the course of this hour who was Home Secretary during the first 6 years of this Conservative government. It was the Prime Minister, Theresa May. Well, whoever designed this new system must have been crazy to think that there would be no human consequences or political consequences come to that matter. And if you're an EU national listening to this, and you've heard me over the past 18 months reassuring you that, of course, there's no way that you would be asked to leave the country, how on earth must you be thinking today? I mean, I feel I've been taken for a fool in a way, because I'll tell you what, if I was you, if I was an EU national today, I would be thinking, well, if they can do that to people who've been in this country for 30 or 40 years from the British Commonwealth, people who have, like me, paid my taxes all this time, I would not blame you for wondering what was going to happen to you. We should be debating for this entire programme what happened in Syria over the weekend, and we will be doing for a lot of it, I can assure you. But I do think this is an incredibly important development today in this scandal. I think the government have covered themselves with shame. I think the Home Secretary has covered herself with shame. I think the Immigration Minister, Caroline Noakes, has covered herself with shame. Sometimes politicians need to take responsibility for what happens, even if it was the fault of a civil servant down the chain. But the buck stops with them. But I wonder which politicians are actively considering their position this afternoon or this evening, because I can think of a couple who probably should be.